Well, year two for Jeff Lebby is the heat already rising in Starkville. We're diving into Mississippi State's season outlook and what's it take.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Go to FanDuel.com. My name is Jaron Spor. I'm a national college football writer at Athlon Sports. That's Landon McBride. We've got our season outlook show for you today. If you followed us this week, we've done a position outlook on every single position. Then we even did the coaches on yesterday's episode. Well, today we're going to conclude it with our expectations for the season. How much pressure is Jeff Lebby really under? Could surprise some people heading into year two because CBS actually put out their hot seat rankings. And then we'll obviously end it, as we do every Friday, with what we're looking forward to most in Starkville. But first, let's start out with the expectations for the season. Some of the things I just wanted to read real quick. ESPN's Football Power Index. We've talked about them a little bit before. They have Mississippi State as the number 52 ranked team in the country, which is second to last in the SEC, just ahead of Vanderbilt. It has Mississippi State going 4-8 on the year. And the SP Plus rankings, another analytical driven rankings, has Mississippi State as the 71st best team in college football. Ironically, and we talked about this unit yesterday, their best unit is special teams, 27, ranked number 27 in the country in special teams.
Let's go. Hey, good to be good at something. But yeah, I think this is going to be a solid year. It's hard to say. It's hard. I mean, we've talked about it so much. It seems like we keep circling around that 4 to 5 win kind of range at this point. But I do think we're going to see massive improvements in overall terms of quality of play, how much that translates to on-field success in terms of wins and losses. That's yet to be seen. But there's a lot of positive things that are coming out of, but some of it's going to be coach speak. But, it seems like a lot of it is very positive coming out of the spring practice, media days, heading into fall camp. So I'm looking forward to the season. I think things are going to be good, but it's trying to temper some optimism is kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and we've talked about it a lot. The FBI actually had them going 4-8, which is kind of what we've talked about as what we thought. I went as far as to say I think more of a 5-7. I'm starting to lean that way. But a 4-8 season would be big improvement based off a 2-10 season. Is it good? No. Is it acceptable? No. But after the season they just had and the rebuild that they're under and the schedule that they have, 4-8 would not be a bad season. And obviously you open the year against Southern Miss on the road. You need to make a statement right off the bat that this team is different than last year. And no, I'm not saying last year's team would have lost to Southern Miss, but they did lose to Toledo, and they got waxed by Toledo. So you need to go in there and make a statement because then it brings in the showdown against Arizona State. I think that is the game that's going to tell you what the season's all about, the Arizona State game in week 2.
Yeah, that's going to let you know what kind of team you actually have. Because we've mentioned, despite Arizona State being a college football playoff team, we think they could, if not win the game, at least be very competitive in it because, Arizona State is adjusting to life without Scadaboo. Levitt's a very talented quarterback. They have some talented receivers returning so many people, but when you lose what your team was built around, it can take a while for your team to figure out what it is in the new era. And you're getting them second game of the year. You get them in Starkville. That's a winnable game.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And it's going to be a night game, so hopefully the crowd is rocking for that one. Especially, early in the season, we see this a lot where before the teams realize what kind of team they actually have, usually the environment's pretty good. And then later in the season, if you've struggled, the environment's not as great. But, ring those cowbells, and you have to get loud for that one because, seriously, that's a game that we both, like you mentioned, we both think they can win that game. If you had us to bet right now, probably not picking that one as a win. But a lot of that could be changed in the Southern Miss game. If they go in and handle business against Southern Miss on the road, and not saying Southern Miss is some world beater, but it's just that shows something from last year. If you can go in and handle business in that game, then you're optimistic heading into the Arizona State game. If you struggle in that game and lose or even just barely win, well, now you're not as optimistic for that Arizona State game. But that one, I think, if you win that game, you got a really good chance of starting 4-0, and then after that, it's find an SEC game you can win, and that's easier said than done because you start with Tennessee. I think you can win that game, but again, it all depends on what Tennessee becomes, and we got to see that early in the year as well.
Mm-hmm.
You go at A&M, at Florida, probably not winning either one of those. You get Texas at home, probably not winning that, but you do get at Arkansas. That's a chance you can win. I think that's the game you picked, I believe, for them to win. But then you get Georgia at home, probably not winning that. And then at Missouri and Ole Miss at home to end the season. Those are two games that you can win as well, depending on what those teams become as also.
Yeah, and we keep talking about how you get a team early in the season, sometimes they haven't figured out what they are yet. That could be very true for Mississippi State's defense. When we went through the position breakdowns outside of, obviously offensive line, wide receiver, the defense as a whole has kind of been upended, just completely new players at almost, two per position group, essentially. Yeah. And when you're dealing with that kind of turnover, you don't know what your team's going to be either, which does lead to some excitement in terms of, hey, we could be way better than we thought we were. But it can also lead to we could be the exact same defense with all new people out there. Now, I do think we will see some improvement, but how much yet to be seen. So the beginning of this season is going to be kind of a roller coaster because you could see flashes of a very good defense, but because there's so many new pieces, a lot of blown plays, and you could be in for some wild rides early in the season with this team.
Yeah, and that's what we saw last year was a lot of blown plays and blown coverages and all this. The next thing you know, Toledo's put up 41 on you. Again, that's we talked about it all week that we think the defense is going to be improved, but even if they're going to be improved, we still think they're below average defense, and probably towards the bottom of the SEC defense. We think they could be if they were able to take a jump into the 90s or even go in the top 90 or in the top 90, I think that's a really good jump. See that they were 128 or whatever last year.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, that's still not a good enough jump in terms of that's still going to get you torched in a lot of games. That still means there's a lot of blown coverages in a lot of games. That still means a lot of bad things happen defensively, despite having the improvement. So that's what's going to be the biggest question mark. I mean, I've talked many times about I like to go off of your defensive efficiency and not your total defense, because sometimes the defensive efficiency tells more of the story than what your total defense was.
Absolutely.
Well, Mississippi State was still 110th in defensive efficiency, so it wasn't like it was much better than the 128 total defense ranking. So that's the one, and we've seen this a lot in college football. Efficiency is one you can take a big jump on. Maybe your total defense doesn't take a big jump in terms of yards allowed, but your efficiency can take a big jump. We've seen that.
Yeah, we've seen things like that happen multiple times. And with those little jumps, when you're as bad as Mississippi State was last year, those little jumps mean a lot. And, we've talked about, they could jump to this. They need to get from bad to average on everything. That should be the goal this year, really. Go from bad to average. And if you do that, you have made a massive jump. 5 games is definitely, 5 wins, definitely within the realm of possibility if you make jumps like that. And it's going to make you competitive in a lot of those other games that you do lose, especially if Lebby's offense takes the step in the second year with explosive receivers, healthy shape, and in the second year of his offense. If the offense jumps, everything else moves to average. This team could be fun to watch.
And that's the big one. The offense has to take the biggest step of the two, because anytime your head coach comes from whatever side of the ball it is, that's the side that has to take the biggest jump in year 2. So we'll see if the offense does that, because if it does and your defense is still not great, you're still going to be able to pull out some wins that you probably wouldn't have pulled out last year. But if the offense doesn't take as big of a jump as it needs to, and the defense isn't great, you might have a similar season to last year. So ultimately, we don't think that will happen. We think it will be an improved season, but that's going to start week 2. Will tell you a lot that you need to know about this team for sure. So
Absolutely.
But coming up next, we got to talk about how much pressure is Jeff Lebby actually under. CBS Sports came out with their rankings, and it might surprise you. We'll talk about that coming up next. Well, summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. I have a lot of friends that use FanDuel, and they love to track their favorite matchups, and the apps keep it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. My favorite thing about it, it's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. My other favorite thing about it is I love the same game parlays. Talked about it during the NBA season, especially during the playoffs. I love being able to watch all these games and start adding different bets to it, knowing a guy that is getting hot, throwing a bet on that. Maybe a guy is struggling, place a bet on the under on something like that. That's my favorite part. You get to be a part of the action, and it increases a game that you might not care too much about. Now you care about it because you threw a bet on. So that also adds a little fun to it. But if you're new to FanDuel, listen up. New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so CBS Sports every year does their hot seat rankings, and they rank it for every single coach in college football. And they grade it on a scale of 0 all the way up to 5. Yeah. So, and there's some points in there as well. So 0 to 0.99 means the coach is untouchable. 28 coaches were untouchable. 1 to 1.99 is safe and secure. That's 60 coaches. 2 to 2.99 is all good for now, and that was 23 coaches. 3 to 3.99 is pressure is mounting, which is 16 coaches. 4 to 4.99 is start improving now, which is 8 coaches. And 5 is win or be fired, which was 1 coach. As for Mississippi State and Jeff Lebby, they got a 3. So as I mentioned, that means the pressure is starting to mount. What do you think about that ranking, Landon?
I think it's about right. And it's kind of what we talked about. This season, we don't think his job's in jeopardy, but if he doesn't improve, next season becomes you have a massive jump or you're looking for a new job. And him being an offensive coach and the defense being so bad also kind of gives him a little bit of a escape hatch. He has at least 1 year that he can just say, oh, my offense got better. It was the defense's fault, and, fire defensive coordinator and buy himself another year. So even if this season, unless we go winless this year, I don't think he's really in danger of losing his job unless things just go completely off the rails. Something, crazy starts happening, reports of like locker room dysfunction. But I think it's about right. It's not dire yet, but you see a light coming. Is it the train or is it the end of the tunnel?
Well, and the interesting thing to monitor, and we've talked about this before, is in this new era of college football, athletic departments and more importantly, the boosters are not going to be as patient as they used to be. Mm-hmm. And so in reality, like if this hire was made 5-6 years ago, I think Lebby gets 4 years automatically. That's not the reality anymore. We're seeing coaches after 2 seasons of a rebuild get fired. Mm-hmm. We're seeing other coaches. I mean, look at Auburn, for example. Brian Harsin didn't do a good job in his 2 seasons, and he was fired. Mm-hmm. Hugh Freeze has done a worse job in 2 seasons, and he's still there. So it's just you never know what's going to happen. Now, I'm not saying Hugh Freeze isn't a better coach than Brian Harsin. I think he is, and he's recruited better. And I think Auburn will have a good season this year. But the point was, the boosters believe in Freeze, despite the record being worse than what Harsin had, and they didn't believe in Harsin. Again, I understand there's a lot that goes into that. There were some things about Harsin not really caring about recruiting and stuff. Like, I understand all that. But that's why I'm just saying, in this world, you never know really how much pressure's on a coach, because you might think, okay, well, it was a rebuild last year. This year, they shouldn't expect too much. And then next thing you know, they're still fired. So I do think, though, at Mississippi State, it's a little different. It's more the traditional way. If Lebby shows improvements, goes 4-8, shows some signs of life, that the pressure is going to be very minimal after this season.
Yeah.
For this season.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where it falls. As long as there's a step forward, things will continue. You know, this whole thing will continue, and it will continue to get better. But if it kind of stagnates, I still think it would be hard for them to pull the trigger, just with, you know, it was a good transfer class. We think the load hold hire is a very good hire. They added another defensive coach, added some defensive analysts, doing all the little things. And if it doesn't translate immediately, but it doesn't really get any worse, I could see it kind of being, all right, you're on the super hot seat heading into the next year, and you could see a midseason firing in that situation. But I think he makes it through this year, barring anything makes it through this year and starts next year unless something just insane happens.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I mean, unless there's some things happening behind the scenes that we don't know about. And I'm not talking about like illegal stuff. I'm just talking about, maybe he's not recruiting as hard as
butting heads with the wrong person.
Yeah, stuff like that. Like, if that's happening, then obviously that can change things. But I think, one thing is Zach Selman, it's his guy. It's the guy he picked. If this was, we saw it with Zach Arnett. It was one season and someone was like, let's move on. Let's find the next guy. And I want my guy. And so that's what they did with Jeff Lebby. And so we'll see if anything happens with that. But I think that matters. But also, and we've talked about this, just having athletic director support is massive. Having your athletic department is massive. And that's not just the athletic director, that also goes to the school president.
Yeah. And they when we talk about with the recruiting, they do all kind of seem to be on the same page with how good the recruiting has been. It seems there's, more money's coming in for facilities, and we think now that all that's kind of gone up, that's going to start being redirected toward NIL type fundraising. So it seems like everyone is on the same page and everyone is going forward together. Everything's, good. But all it takes is things to go a little bit worse than what they should for some of those things to start coming off the tracks. So it is important to show improvement, even if it's another, let's say they don't hit 4 wins, they win 3 games, but the defense improves. They're in the 90s. Offense shows cohesion and explosive plays, and all these losses are by 10 points instead of 30 points. Then it's kind of like, all right, there's proof of concept here. We can give it another year to see what happens.
Now, with that being said, I think even if he goes 4-8 or 5-7, well, that showed improvement. The next year, 2026, is going to be a lot of pressure. Like, even though that is improvement, you're now at the point where it's like, you got to start getting to a bowl game. You showed improvement, but we got to get to a bowl game. And if he goes 4-8 that year, or takes a step back and goes 3-9, then I could see him out the door, because that's and he should be out the door. I'm not saying that like it's a bad thing. He should be, because in this day and age, you cannot fall behind. And if you had another bad season where you don't make a bowl game, you're falling behind. And so you got to move on and get a coach in here that will take you back to multiple bowl games. And then maybe every now and then, kind of like we saw with Dan Mullen, you pop and have that big season. But that's going to have to that obviously will matter with what happens this year. I think if he goes and gets a bowl game somehow this year, then the pressure is completely off in 2026. But I don't see that happening. I think he's going to win 4 or 5 games, and then the pressure is mounting for the 2026 season, and that's going to be probably a make or break year for him.
Yeah, I think by 2026, you have to be in a bowl game. And if they pop this year and make a bowl game, they have to make a bowl game in 26, because if they don't, then if something happens and they take a step back, he's lost his job after that, I think. So, barring, unless it was massive injuries, just took all our starters out. But yeah, I just think it's a year you got to have at least one to 2 more wins in the actual record book and just show improvement across the board. Because this schedule, we've talked about it a million times, is daunting for anyone, especially a team that's trying to come out of a rebuild.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. All right, coming up next, we got to talk about what we're looking forward most this week in Starkville. Don't go anywhere. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Landon, what are you looking to most this weekend and into next week?
Well, still keep an eye on all the recruiting. I don't think we have any major commits that are scheduled, but one could pop up over the weekend before, before the next week hits. So just kind of keeping an eye on that and watching the calendar, because every day is a little bit closer to those fall practices starting up.
Yeah. My thing I was looking forward to the most is fall practice starting up. And the crazy thing is, used to every school would post an athletic calendar, and you knew exactly when the media days was, you knew exactly when the start of fall practice was. They don't really do that anymore. If they do, it's really hard to find now. I couldn't find anywhere the start of fall practice, but last year it was August 1st, which would be this upcoming Friday.
Yeah.
I would assume they would start maybe that Thursday, so July 31st.
Somewhere around the area.
Yeah, they're going to start around there. Regardless, fall camp is starting soon. So that's the thing I'm looking forward to the most, because that really signifies, all right, training camp's here, fall camp is here, the season's here. Because right now, right now you've been doing the summer workouts and things like that. A lot of that is non-coach stuff, although you do some coach stuff, but it's a lot of weightlifting and things like that. And I don't mean coaches, it's like the head coach and stuff. I just mean like your other coaches on the staff. You do some stuff like that, but that is now officially going to be in the books. And now it's about getting ready for the season and start hammering stuff down and start preparing for Southern Miss, which I would assume, because a lot of teams do this, unless they have some massive matchup in week one, they'll probably do some Southern Miss prep and some Arizona State prep. That's usually how it's done. First game week, week one and game two, they do some prep together. And for that.
Yeah, this is the last hurdle you have to clear in the calendar before football season's finally here. And this seems like this has been a very long off season for, college and NFL. It seems like it's been forever since I've watched actual football. And it's exciting to see what happens, because there was all the good reports coming out of the spring. Like, oh, this guy's jumping off. This is looking good. This is looking good. And then, they've gone through their summer workouts. Hopefully, everyone's come out unscathed, ready to go. And we'll see if, another step can be taken in the fall with everyone back out there. A couple of those guys that came in late in the spring, there's a couple late transfer additions. Get them actually in practice, see what they do. So there's a lot to look forward to this fall camp.
Yeah, it's a lot of exciting, getting to see all the exciting plays and hype videos that get put out too during this time.
The
crazy plays
in practice that
the crazy play
freaks out about.
Yeah, and then you're like, that's the next star, and then he doesn't actually ever play. And it's just, that stuff is always fun to see. But all right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Jaron. Check out my work over at Athlon Sports. That's Landon. Follow us, Locked On Mississippi State. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. We typically post a video Monday through Friday. Obviously, this week was a little spotty because we've both been traveling so much. But next week, I'll be back full go, so we'll be able to post that more often. But yeah, also, we love your interaction on our questions that we post on every single video on YouTube. So keep interacting with us. Again, interaction might have been a little spotty this week, but next week it will get back to normal on that. And then hit that like, subscribe, ring the bell. Help us get to our goal of 1,000 subscribers within the first couple of weeks of the season. So and until next time, have a great weekend and Hail State.
Hail State.